Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to our coverage of the Spring Invitational Grand Finals between Nexus and Tagada. This is Game 6, ladies and gentlemen. I'll say it again as I've said it before, all of these. If you haven't seen the preceding games, please go and check them out, because today's game will contain spoilers. They are the preceding 5 casts on the channel, so go and check those out on the uploaded videos section, guys, and then come straight back immediately, because you're not going to want to miss this. This is a must-win game for Tagada. He has gone behind for the first time in the series after losing out to Nexus on open palms last time. Nexus just squeezed it out in the end. I don't know why I chose that metaphor, but he did. He squeezed it out. It's grotesque. And managed to pull out the win, basically grinding Tagada down in a war of attrition, but it was pretty close. But ultimately, Nexus won out to make the score 3-2 in the series out of this best of 7. As I've said, we're going to cover all games regardless of who wins today. But nonetheless, it must be won by Tagada if he wants to bag himself that $225 top prize and prove that Nexus isn't the only show in town. Because you know what? Nexus is currently leading the 1v1 ladder rankings. So it's a little bit of a source of pride, I'm sure, at stake here. If Nexus can win either of the next 2 games and win the Invitational tourney, then it will cement his position, I think, for the time being as the #1 one-on-one FAF player currently alive. So let's get on with today's game. It's going to go down on Africa Ultimate. Exciting stuff. I know you are too. I'm ready. You guys are ready. And the players are sure as hell ready. So let's go on over to the game zone and see how they're going to get on. Ching. Ka-ching. Let's check out our players and where they are stationed. Up here at the top right in his customary fabulous Vivacious Violet, just gating in there, it is Nexus going UEF, opening first land. And Tagada down here at the bottom left in his very customary burgundy red, going Seraphim, opening first land. And he's favoured Seraphim pretty heavily so far in this tournament. This is the 4th game so far where he has selected Seraphim. The only other 2 games were games 5 and 3 where he went UEF. Nexus, by contrast, has been a little bit more pliable on the racial front, so he's done 2 Seraphim, 2 Cybran, and this is his 2nd UEF one as well, so really mixing it up. Let's go to split screen, excuse me, and check out the build order that these guys are going to rock today on this sunny Africa Ultimate. I imagine it's going to be pretty similar to one another. There'll probably be a very consistent meta that these guys will stick to, and immediately you can see as they sort their initial build order out there, it's very similar indeed. So a couple of land factories, an air factory next to the hydro, what looks to be about 7 or so P-gens, 8 in the case I think of Tagada there, and of the 4 starting land factories, 2 and 2 on getting 2 different sets of adjacency bonus off the core mass there. So interesting stuff, I think you'll agree. Mostly recently when we have covered this map, it's been in 2v2 format. The 2 bases are pretty condensed next to each other, but you do get a little bit of positioning closer to these ponds, so it makes these ponds a bit more attractive to plonk a naval yard down in and maybe build a cruiser, especially if you're UEF or you're Seraphim. You've got those long-reaching missile cruisers. The anti-air capabilities are nice as well to help shut down areas of the map or make life more difficult for your opponent. But definitely you can imagine if you're stationed up here on Team 1 and you dump a naval yard in here and manage to park cruisers over here, and you've got another base set up right here, then you can really cause some damage. But with them just being a little bit further away, it's harder for them to reach. So I'm wondering if we'll see any naval play at all here today. We will just have to wait and see. The crater is the place to be in terms of mass, of course. Lots of mass sitting in there, but there is a lot of mass dotted around on the side of the main central plateau. You can't pass into that crater through natural means. You have to airlift your forces in there. We'll see if anybody makes an early rush for that. First air scout out seems to be for Nexus. He's going to get the likely first read on his opponent. Is that bomber first? That is bomber first. So Tagada playing it aggressive out of his first unit off the conveyor belt out of his air factory. And where will he be heading with that? It looks like he's coming straight up here to the north, and will probably cut in either towards the main base or look for something to take out on that rear plateau up at the back there. Meanwhile, over on the western beach, we've got two very similar forces about to bump into one another. One Tham and a Selen versus a Snoop and a Striker. Who's going to get the initial bonus on the exchange? They seem to land pretty closely together, but that Striker for Nexus runs straight into the fire of the Selen, so that's a little extra DPS advantage there for our Seraphim contender today. And indeed, down goes the Striker first of all, followed by the Snoop. The Tham will survive with 40 HP remaining. Very nicely done indeed there from Tagada, who's also advancing up the eastern beach as we speak. We have another similar force lying in wait though not moving southwards to meet it. He's just holding. We've got an engineer back here throwing up a reinforcing land factory. There goes that bomber we saw taking out the engineer, and very annoyingly for Nexus, hampering his expansion out onto that back plateau there. It takes a while to get another engineer up there. You can see none are on their way presently. So that will really annoy him. There's nothing more annoying than getting your expansion shut down. Selen gets discovered and hosed by Striker fire. Nicely tidied up there for Nexus. Always annoying when you get Selens with their naughty cloaky capabilities cloaked up, giving them the enemy intel on that sensitive region of the map. Nexus, having brought his commander forward, is going to throw down a land factory up on that central plateau. Very similar situation, I'm sure, to Tagada, who's just a little bit further behind. He waited a bit longer to put his comm out of his main base. How are we doing on eco? Seems to be very close. Tagada might be just ahead, 21 to 19 in terms of generated eco, but Nexus up in total mass accrued, getting the better of the reclaim side of things. He's about 200 mass up overall, but not a great gap emerging as yet, as you would expect inside 5 minutes. 4 Thams bump into a couple of Strikers. Nexus bringing his commander over here personally to sort that out. You can see he's got 4 land factories queued up around a mechs there. See if his plans change once he runs into enemy forces. I doubt 4 Thams are going to cause him any problems. A few Strikers and a couple of Snoops making their way down that western approach. And in fact, Tagada has redirected the stream of his forces to come up through the plateau. So there's not going to be anything running head first into those units. Those units could score some kills down here in the shape of an engineer and a mechs. We do have another engineer about to roll off the conveyor belt there from that little land factory at the side. Indeed, they will manage to score a kill on that engineer. And we've had an engineer hoof it over on his Todd from Nexus to this little side island here, and he's going to throw up a land factory there after reclaiming a couple of rocks. So he's the first to make a play for one of the side islands, and he's the first to make a play for the central crater as well. Nexus airdropping 5 engineers in, and they're going to get scooping before too long, I'm sure of it. Or at least once the other important things on his agenda have been tidied up, because he's not giving commands to them for the time being. Strikers moving forward and missing the opportunity to continue their run by. Tagada just lying in wait. Could have been working on some mexes up over here. Might have taken down 1 or 2. More forces about to file in behind, but we have got reinforcements moving into the area from Nexus, who wisely spies the danger. Courier returning to main base. Engineers getting straight to work, well, eventually after their cigarette break, on a plasma cannon. Then they're going to tidy up some rocks and thump down a land factory right in the middle of that puppy. Thams deciding it's not worth their while to hang about. Hostile numbers increasing, so they are going to bug out back onto the main plateau. Nexus successfully completes that land factory, which is working on a Striker. Where are we now in terms of economy? It's neck and neck. It's about 33 mass apiece. Tagada floating a lot of mass, though. His bar is almost full. either needs to get spending or start building some mass storage. It's now 18k apiece for total mass accrued. I imagine that that will change slightly once this mass starts to flow more freely into the coffers for Nexus, although we've got some harassment here from the ridge. And Zui, from Tagada, failing pretty hard with its targeting, but sometimes an elevated position will do that to you on SOPCOM. And that Zui does get taken out, ultimately. Engineers working on point defences. Thams show up, but there are strikers lying in wait also. Should hold on to at least one of those engineers, maybe both. With the land factory up here pumping out more engineers, we're not going to see a repeat anytime soon of that opening stage. Tagada crippled Nexus's expansion with that early T1 bomber. But look at this, Tagada being very aggressive, moving his comm way up forward. He's thrown down a land factory at the midpoint. Where is Nexus? Nexus slightly further back, closer to his land factories over here. These factories upgrading to T2, so the HQ must be over here. There it is, in the main base. Engineers already working on T2 P-gens. And we already have T2 factories in place, or a T2 HQ. And another one upgrading to 65. We've got a transport nearby. Engineers also working on expanding the power grid. Throwing down some tactical missile defense, never a terrible idea, especially when you've got units sitting in the crater right in the middle of the map. Perfect position to throw down some tactical missile launchers. So there was me saying that you're not likely, or not necessarily likely, to see any naval yards crop up in these ponds. And 10 minutes in, Tagada says, "No, Guile, you shut up. This is what you do." And he does sound just like that. That was the perfect impression of the chap I've never actually heard speak in the flesh. Tagada withdrawing, might lose his forward land factory here as Nexus advances with a combination of pillars and strikers. He's going to actually throw down an upgrade, so he wasn't withdrawing at all. Still might lose this land factory, but he's going to surge forward with his spam to prompt Nexus to back up. Doesn't want to have to cancel that upgrade now. It's a T2 engineering suite at 45% and climbing. Utilizing some of that mass that he has stored up and been unable to spend. In fact, both of them floating mass at this point. Nexus on half full bar as well. Nexus has grabbed the initiative on the western island, which seems to be seeing a lot less action, that pond in general. Couple of engineers just cheekily trying to reclaim that naval yard, and they must have been dropped off down here, because that was, a moment ago, just saw on the minimap, that was Nexus's property. So he went down there, he reclaimed it. You can see it's a UEF mechs there, rebuilt it in the name of the glorious UEF, and then went up here to start reclaiming that naval yard and almost managed it. Those engineers only getting taken out with 226 hit points remaining on that naval factory. So I think that's what you call in the nick of frickin' time. But he needs to send those that frigate forward, because, yeah, I was just not calling it right at all at the beginning of this one. There was another naval yard that's sprung up here belonging to Nexus. Two engineers assisting production of a submarine there, Tiger Shark. So that's going to be interesting for that frigate to contend with. Tagada facing an onslaught from Nexus. Both of these guys have the unupgraded gun, but Tagada has that engineering suite. And Tagada utilizing transports to redeploy forces to the front line. These forces all Tech 2 as well. So we're getting Ilshivers reinforcing the position here. Terrible place to land your transport, though. A quick overcharge from Nexus, and that will deny Tagada the use of that for future transport sorties. But he's got another one And he's still bringing in more Tech 2 forces. Nice use of an Ioshiva there for a little bit of unit variation. Help control the skies. 2 frigates turn up to try and cause problems now for this naval yard belonging to Nexus. They're going to go straight in around the back and take out the engineers. Solid decision. Slow up production of that submarine. That Tiger Shark still in range. Has taken down one of the frigates. It's a slow process when you have just one sub. Really, he wants to get out his next sub and just send it down here to finish that off, because only 226 hit points on that naval yard. Should be able to manage it. Ilshiva's over in the west, meanwhile getting mobbed by an assortment of pillars, mongoose and strikers. That position now looking untenable. Tagada still airlifting forces. Couple of Ilshivas airlifted to that position. And Com's going toe-to-toe over in the east. Both of them having gun upgrades, remember. Nexus just being brought down into the yellow at 10,600 hit points. Tagada going to try and throw down a point defense. It looks like he might have the room to do that. Nexus dropping all the way back here to the T1 PD. So this might be hard for Nexus to push through next time he turns up if there are some defenses in place. Nexus does have a parashield. He's got some mongoose, 1 or 2 in there for a little bit of ranged advantage. Another transport inbound with another couple of Ilshivas. Oh, was that that wasn't a T1, a T2, excuse me, point defense. That was just a radar for some extra intel. So no stronghold being developed here for Tagada. Got a couple of forces causing problems over here in the backfield. This factory pumping out some Zuis, which are just going to be running rogue. That one ran a bit too rogue and went too close to that point defense and got taken out. But the western approach on that central plateau, seesawing in control. Just saw Nexus beast what was left of Tagada's forces further down here, and now Tagada's pushed his way all the way back up and taken out that land factory and the 2 mexes that were nearby. Tagada doing his best to pick off valuable units at range and keep that commander safe. Wants to withdraw these forces, doesn't want to get involved with all of that. Surely, certainly looks like he is going to withdraw. Ilshiva's so very fast and deadly. It's a wonderful T2 unit. Cheeky little drop on the cards here from Nexus. A few pillars on board. Kudos to those people who like to watch Guilecast and play drinking games. I hear cheeky little drop is one of the commands that affords you a couple of fingers of fun, so I promise not to say it too often. That is going to be a very successful cheeky little drop. There we go! Pillars on the ground, but straight into a band of Ilshivas lying in wait for their next transport run. There's a vulnerable high priority target here in the form of a T2 P-Gen, but the pillars getting canned very quickly indeed, and that P-Gen will survive with about 750 hit points. Nicely done there from Tagada. A little bit of luck. Happened to land in an Ilshiva staging area, but that is just the way of things. It's all about the T2 this game. Ilshivas versus pillars. Decent quantities of parashields though. That's got to have Tagada worried. Tagada's unit comp not quite as diverse as Nexus's. Courier ferrying units about. In the backfield there for Nexus, but a Zui drop is successful. The transport gets shot down, but the Zois get down onto the ground, and they manage to take down a Tech 2 mechs. That has got to sting a little bit. Nexus still up in generated eco, or it's hard to tell. 105 versus 97. Yes, Nexus just up still by about 8 mass. Not a huge amount, but nonetheless still an advantage. Meanwhile, Crater still in the hands of Nexus, but perhaps not for too much longer. We've got Zui bombardment coming in from multiple directions, and an Ilshiva drop right into the center. Is that significant, I wonder? Will we see Tagada try and take this now? Airdrop some build capacity in there. We've also had a drop down here, a little Lobo number, which has taken out that mechs over there. A bomber or two sails in overhead, or a bomber or three. They're coming in for their bombing run now. What's the spread like? Well, it's pretty terrible. They pick off one unit. 3 THAMs brought in to help sort it out, and they're going to get on top of that without any difficulty. So, where are we now? Hard to tell on eco, as Nexus was power locked for a moment there, but it is pretty much neck and neck in generated eco. Not much difference there, about a K and a bit difference in total eco. It's a very, very 50-50 this game. These guys sitting on more or less half the map each. But look what's staging down here. So we've seen lots of drops from Tagada, we've seen some from Nexus, but it looks like Tagada is stockpiling now for some kind of aerial D-Day, or what is in the comment section below. What was the airborne operation before D-Day? I do forget. Operation drop all your men behind enemy lines, take out some bridges, and probably not see them again. Zui's over here, taken out pretty easily. It's not a major dedication to that stream of units. Tagada pulling right back and now starting to stockpile troops from the forces on this main plateau. So I'm guessing we're going to get some kind of major redeployment away from Nexus's forces. Is he going to be able to sneak it in somewhere around the back? Well, here we go. That's a pretty sizable drop from Tagada at 20 minutes. He's pulled the majority of his forces. He's still got a decent amount in the middle. Nexus looking like he's going to push, so it's a good thing too that he's got those. And we were also at T3 for Nexus with a couple of Percys there. But how and where will these transports land? This is a major make or break situation now for Tagada. He has to make this pay if this goes horribly wrong, if they get seen and shot down. Well, they've been seen. The interceptors are moving in, but they're almost, those transports, almost at the main base now. They'll probably shoot down 1 or 2 of the transports. There goes one, there goes a second, but all of the others will land, and that is a lot of Ilshivas that just made landfall. 45 being airdropped right at the foot of the main base. Nexus panics and withdraws all of his forces back from the front. We're going to see a movement on the mini-map from Tagada as he moves up to try and move into that vacated space. We'll just have to wait and see as these Ilshivas now start piling into the main base of Nexus. The power generators, the major target, surely they are further to the south. If he could take down that T3 land headquarters, that would be quite the coup as well. Forces now pouring in from Nexus along with his commander to start trying to thin these out. Down go 3 of the 4 T2 PGens. The 4th one follows shortly after. Surely they want to take out that T3 land factory headquarters. Engineers hurriedly erecting T1 point defense over here in the east. There's still a few Ilshivas left. They aren't focusing in on the land factory. It would take an awful lot of damage to take that out, but instead they have been focusing down the rows of T1 P-Gens. Tagada trying to take out as much of Nexus's power infrastructure as he can, and look at what he's done. He has crippled. He has absolutely crippled Nexus's power, and as such his ability to produce mass, which is down, ticking around the plus 14, plus 15 mark. That was a very successful drop, and more troops being airlifted to a different position, this time over here in the east, the southeast of that main base, well away from Nexus's forces, who are actually pushing up over here to try and contend with yet another drop. Tagada all over this one at Game 6, doing his level best to be aggressive and try and pull out the win, and I think it's paying off. That was really, really painful drop for Nexus. Tagada just landing close enough to the main base, getting in there. He will have deposited a lot of mass in here, but Nexus now is consumed in an operation to try and restore his power grid, which was absolutely annihilated in that last exchange. And now engineers up here trying to work on more T1 P-Gens for emergency auxiliary power, are just going to get run over by a cheeky little run-by from Tagada, who bulldozes his way up to the top right corner with yet more Ilshivas. They're being pursued by some pillars, but I think Tagada might have broken him here. This might be too far back for Nexus to manage. Are we going to see a level pegging, a deciding 7th game on the cards? It's certainly looking good for that right now. Tagada advancing on all fronts now on the main plateau as Nexus has been forced to vacate the area. Ilshivas advancing unchallenged on what were previously solid stronghold positions for Nexus. Couple of triads just getting overrun. Just had to offline that T2 radar. Eventually gets destroyed anyway. Permanently offline now. Doesn't want those Percivals to complete, but they will. Nexus now moving out with his commander, and in comes some siege tanks. 4 Othams airlifted to the front line. Tagada has been superb with his logistics and his transports in this game. And Nexus just hasn't been able to contend with it. So far, this is turning out to be, in terms of masterful play, I think the game of the series, of the grand final. There's a masterclass in how to utilize airdrops. In comes another transport, but doesn't manage to get on the ground. You must have some anti-air kicking around. Shot that one down. I think that had 3 Othams on board, so that's a costly loss. But we've still got Ilshivas stomping around, trying to work on a T3 mechs now up here at the backfield, but there's only strikers wandering around trying to contend with them. And despite the fact that it's taking a long time to chew through those 9,000 hit points, it looks like they're going to manage it. Some demolisher fire rains down from the main base, but down goes T3 mechs. Ouch! Another group of Ilshivas up on the rear plateau. Yeah, just look at how much, how much Nexus has been diminished up here. He's spread out. His units have dwindled. He's well down on mass production. Tagada up only 2k overall, but that lead is going to increase now. And we've still got groups of Ilshivas dotted around that Nexus needs to take out. He has sorted out his energy production issue. He's rebuilt those 4 T2 P-Gens, working on getting a T2 radar back up and running so he can have a solid read on what's going on the wider area. But it would be a miracle to come back from this, I think, at this point. Tagada has just been too aggressive. He caught Nexus at just the right time as he'd branched out into T3 production, so was a little bit lighter on unit count. And crucially, he managed to land all of those forces, bar 2 transports worth. There was, what, like another 6 transports that did land, something like that. 5 or 6 made landfall. And Nexus has now had to dump an awful lot into securing, re-establishing his power production. He's got a lot of mass to hoover up now, though. You can see it's spiking. He's up over 300-400 as he reclaims a lot of these wrecks in the area. Hoovering up old T3 mexes and replacing them with T1. So he will get a quick boost. And he's getting a double mass read now. As you can see, he's 3k up total mass accrued, but it doesn't really count when you're having to funnel that back in. You're getting it up off wrecks that you've previously already built and having to now rebuild. That is a net loss overall. Titans moving in, or a Titan moving in to hoover up the last of the Ilshivers up at the back, and gets assistance from a couple of Percivals as well. One Tech 2 transport with a single T1 engineer on board. What's he looking to do here? Dropping awfully close to a striker. That's probably going to get his offload package killed there. But Nexus not yielding. You don't get to where he's gotten life. Oh, by giving up, but he might have to now. I didn't even notice. I was so busy jabbering away, I didn't notice the notify mod tell us all that Tagada had completed an experimental. But yeah, there's a chicken bearing down on Nexus's comm right now. Nexus doing the Africa Fandango, trying to avoid the inbound fire, but little to no avail. Inside half an hour, Tagada closes it out. The GGs go out, and that was GG indeed. Tagada levels the game at 3 apiece, so we will be going into a final decider, 7th game here at the Spring Invitationals Grand Final. Solid play from Tagada. Absolutely played out of his skin. Wonderful to see them win in that kind of fashion as well. There's nothing more majestic than a whole horde of transports fully laden with mechanical death airlifting straight into their opponent's base. So very entertaining. Well played, Tagada. Looking forward to the final game tomorrow, guys. Hope you enjoy it. Of course, if you've seen everything and want to see more and you don't currently subscribe to the Patreon, guys, do check that out. It's a mere $1 a month. I try to get a new cast out there every single week, and that is privileged content just for my Patreon subscribers. There are some 23 casts, I believe, up there already, so go and check that out, guys. But until next time, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.